This is Uncensored Conservatism, episode number 185, continuing to look at some modern mysteries. And so we're going to start today at number 18 in this 10-part series is Who Killed Jonbenet Ramsey? She, you may recall, was a 6-year-old beauty pageant queen from Boulder, Colorado, who was found dead in 1996 in the basement of her home. First, she was reported missing and police finding no footprints in the snow, although I don't see any snow here, but this may have been taken days after, outside the home. Then they tell the father, John Ramsey, to look around along with his neighbor and report anything unusual, and he first checks the basement, which has seldom used in his own words, but he goes there first and finds his daughter dead. Then the mother finds a strange ransom note demanding $118,000, the exact amount of her husband's Christmas bonus. So what kind of kidnapper asks for $118,000? Wouldn't $100,000 or $150,000 or even $1 million sound better? But nah, it's $118,000. And it's written on her mother's stationery. Handwriting analysis is, however, inconclusive. So there's something weird about this whole thing. So let's look at the key suspects in this. And the first is Michael Helgoth, described as a hellraiser. So he owned a pair of boots that matched the print left at the crime scene. Further, his family claims he left a taped confession which has never been found. Regardless, he killed himself in 1997, and his DNA did not match any found in the house. Next up, Bill McReynolds, the town Santa Claus, who, in fact, he entertained the Ramsey family in their home and supposedly treasured a vial of glitter that Jonbenet gave to him. He died of a heart attack in 2002. I mean, did infatuation with the kid lead him to kill her and leave a ransom note? Kind of weird. Then there's Gary Oliva. Now, a registered sex offender who lived in Boulder at the time. He admitted to becoming interested in the kid after her murder and confessed only if he could be sent to jail since he was homeless at the time. Now, John Ramsey thinks he may have been responsible. The problem? No DNA evidence. Photographer Randy Simons was also named as a possibility. He took many pictures of Jonbenet, and he was later arrested for downloading kiddie porn. But again, no DNA match. Then there's the substitute teacher, John Mark Carr. He was arrested on a warrant after he fled the country after being arrested in California for having child pornography. He then confessed to killing Jonbenet, but the case fell apart based on a lack of DNA evidence. Next, there is Patricia, or Patsy Ramsey, the mother. But what would the motive be? Jonbenet was known to wet her bed frequently, and the theory goes that mom got angry and accidentally killed her daughter. We may never know because she died of ovarian cancer. John Ramsey, the father, is a possibility, but I don't think so. A lot of the accusations are based on his behavior after his daughter initially was listed as missing and then found. What is normal behavior after finding your child dead? I don't know. And finally, there's Burke Ramsey, the brother. The theory goes that Jonbenet ate a piece of his pineapple snack. She did have pineapple in her stomach, undigested, during the autopsy. The kid snapped and killed his sister, and that possibly the father and mother covered it all up with a preposterous ransom note and all of that. Now, the Colorado cold case people think there may be new evidence overlooked at the time, and admittedly, the police work was kind of sloppy in Boulder. In that basement where Jonbenet was found, there was a broken window with a suitcase under it and scuff marks on the wall. Maybe someone did break in. But was Jonbenet in the basement? Was she just playing in this basement that was locked from the kitchen? And remember, there were no footprints in the snow outside the home. And there you can see, probably earlier in the investigation, there is snow on the ground. But anyway. And remember, even though the cops interviewed the Ramseys in their home initially, they noticed but never checked the door to the basement and went down there. Her body was found 7 hours later in that basement. So this was either forced entry by a ghost, But that's not possible because there was a footprint in the basement recovered, or no forced entry at all. The plot thickens. I believe it comes down to one of two things. Either the weird kiddie porn loving substitute teacher had this weird infatuation with Jonbenet and somehow he got in the house. Now, John Ramsey said he may have been a neighbor in Atlanta previously, and the maid at their summer home in Michigan remembers him once stopping by that house. Was he stalking Jonbenet? This seems really unlikely. Jonbenet was 6 at the time of her murder, and the Ramseys had moved from Atlanta to Boulder when she was 1. I don't know how pervert minds work, but I doubt this car dude had a hard-on for the kids since she was 1 at the time, and that he was stalking her for 5 years, just waiting for the right time. I don't know. Maybe he had some weird pervert thing that he only goes for 6-year-olds. Anyway, as for John Ramsey, he has alternately blamed several people, but that may just be a father looking for an answer to his child's murder. Personally, and this is only my personal opinion, I think that Burke Ramsey, who was in that house the time Jonbenet was killed, is responsible. This dude's kind of creepy to start with. The father, I don't think so. The mother, I think she helped cover it up. Remember, Burke was 9 at the time. Also, most of the outside people were eliminated due to a lack of DNA evidence. So surely DNA from Burke, Patsy, and John Ramsey were in that house, but when you exonerate them, you also may incorrectly dismiss DNA evidence. Anyway, those are my thoughts. And by the way, that McReynolds guy, his DNA should have been in the house because he played Santa Claus like the night before or 2 nights before in their house. But, whatever. Anyway, at number 17 is California's ongoing water problems. Why? This became an issue with the recent LA wildfires, but shine a light on an ongoing problem in California when it comes to water. The state's water infrastructure is quite simply designed for a population of 20 million. Today, the population is almost double that amount. Further efforts at addressing the problems usually focus on conservation. The environmentalists, which prefer conservation, will tell you that it is unusually warm and dry, that California is in drought because of climate change. Not really. Nope. In fact, the recent fires came about because of an unusually wet period, followed by 2 years of below normal precipitation. In short, that wet period created the fuel that eventually dried out. Secondly, it has nothing to do with climate change. In prehistoric times, we know that 1.8 million hectares per year burned in California, according to scientific studies. Today, the average is only 400,000. The problem may be that mankind is moving into these areas that previously burned annually with nary a worry. Look at the red marks there. Those are all areas where the population is moving into. The Palisades area that burned is serviced by 3 huge water tanks that were full at the time. The problem was in Palisades, not in the Los Angeles area, because LA does not get their water from those tanks. Well, what about reservoirs? Well, they're a good idea to have them. They are a source of water, but the environmentalists will point to carbon footprints and such. California's focus on conservation, however, has thwarted major water projects. For example, Newsom signed legislation that would force households to use 47 gallons per person per day, down from 60 gallons. This is designed to decrease urban water use by 400,000 acre-feet per year. But this accounts for less than 0.5% of California's water needs in a dry year. And it's going to cost $7 billion to implement it. So are residents to worry about, do I water my vegetables or do I take a shower every day? Then they want to divert water from the Sacramento River south through a fucking tunnel. I mean, what can go wrong here, right? Meanwhile, Millions of gallons of rainwater every year, drought or not, are washed into the Pacific Ocean through a series of urban aqueducts. Has anybody ever heard of desalination plants, by the way? California borders the friggin' Pacific Ocean. So until Newsom and company stop listening to autistic Swedes and get their heads out of their asses, and they actually do something, California will have a so-called water problem. They don't have a water problem. They have a political problem. And that's it for today. Join me tomorrow when we will look at two more mysteries. What was Stephen Paddock's motive in the Las Vegas mass shooting? And did Jeffrey Epstein really commit suicide? Until then, have a great day and a more pleasant tomorrow.